The DateTime variable is possibly the most specialized variable in C#. It is, as you would expect, used to store dates and times. Date and time are often the most difficult things to work with in programming, since date and time systems are very complex. Fortunately, the DateTime variable does a lot of the work for you. To begin, open the Shining Stone sample file from your Sample Files folder. And open the code behind file of buy.aspx. We are now going to add a DateTime variable. To do this, add the following code to the page load event handler. DateTime test DateTime equals DateTime.now response.write test DateTime. The now property of the DateTime type always contains the current date and time. When the page loads, this code will create a new DateTime variable containing the current date and time and output it to the page. View the page in your browser now, and you'll see the current date and time displayed. Note that different calendars are used by different countries. The DateTime object supports all of these, but it will default to the calendar that is being used by the computer that the web application is running on. On my computer, the date is displayed in the UK format. It's important to bear in mind that the web server you eventually place your site on may be using a different calendar to the computer you are developing the application on. ASP.NET calls the regional rules for formatting dates the culture. You can use the globalization tag in the web.config file to make sure your site always runs using your chosen culture, rather than using the culture of the web server it is running on. Close your web browser now. The DateTime variable has several methods that allow you to easily manipulate the date and time stored inside it. We are going to use the addDays method to add 3 days to the variable. Add a new line of code after the line that creates the variable with the following code. Test DateTime equals test DateTime dot add days 3. This code will add 3 days to the value of the test DateTime variable. This means that the result that is output to the page should be 3 days later than today. If I view the page in my browser, I can see that the date displayed is 3 days later than today's date. Close your browser now. Note that you can use the other add methods of DateTime to add hours, months, years, etc. Sometimes you'll just want to get a single component from a date, such as the month or year. The DateTime variable has properties that allow you to easily extract each component. We are going to use the month property to display the month from the value of the DateTime variable. Change the response.write test DateTime line to response.write test DateTime.month. You'll notice in the IntelliSense menu that the month property is an int value. View the page in your browser, and you can see the month of the variable displayed as an integer. Close your browser again. All of the components of the date have their own property. For example, you could get the year of the date using the testDateTime.year property. The DateTime variable also offers a few methods that will format the date in different ways. We are going to use the toShortDateString method to display the date in a shorter format. Change the response.write testDateTime.month line to response.write testDateTime.toShortDateString. This will display a shorter date string. Note that there are other similar methods, such as toShortTimeString and toLongDateString. View the page in your browser, and you can see that the date is displayed in a shorter format. You can customize the date string in a more sophisticated way by using the toString method. You'll learn how to do this in Lesson 5.9. Close your web browser now. Note that if you create a DateTime variable without a value, its value will be null. You'll learn about null in Lesson 5.12. Unlike the other variable types you've worked with so far, there isn't a simple way to manually assign a value to a DateTime variable. You will almost always create a date based on the value of a calendar control or using datetime.now. If you wanted to create a new DateTime variable containing an arbitrary date and time, you'd do so by specifying arguments when creating a new instance of the DateTime class. You'll learn how to do this in Lesson 6.2. Remove all code from the PageLoad event handler and you've now completed Lesson 5.7. Use DateTime variables.